mists, and fumes, as well as gases and vapors. Keep in mind that when selecting a respirator cartridge, your employer must select one that is appropriate for the specific hazard in your work area. Cartridges should be selected based on the chemical or contaminant type, solid, liquid, or gas, the concentration of the chemical or contaminant, and the cartridge color code. Respirator cartridges are color-coded. White is for acid gases, black is for organic vapors, green is for ammonia gas, yellow is for acid and organic vapors, and magenta or purple is for highly toxic particulates. Cartridges must be replaced as needed. Your employer will communicate the change schedule in the company's written respirator program. Check with your supervisor to determine the frequency or methods used to determine the need for changing the cartridge. If you are unable to obtain this information, refer to the manufacturer's recommendations. Atmosphere supplying respirators supply clean breathing air from an external source. Three common types of atmosphere supplying respirators are supplied air respirators, or SARs, self-contained breathing apparatuses, or SCBAs, and portable escape supplied air respirators. The OSHA standard states that employers must ensure that employees using supplied air respirators have high-quality breathing air. This is accomplished by ensuring that compressed air meets the requirements for Grade D breathing air. When selecting a respirator, you must be aware of the hazards in your workplace, identify any factors that could affect the reliability and performance of the respirator, and be aware of the respirator's limitations. Other factors to consider when selecting a respirator include the physical configuration of the user's face, any medical conditions, and comfort. The respirator must be certified by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH, and should correctly fit the user. Before wearing respiratory protection, you must have a medical clearance. Once you are medically cleared, you must be fit tested for the specific brand, model, size, and type of respirator you will be wearing. Finally, you must be trained to use it. The fit test must be conducted before your first use of the respirator and annually thereafter. Fit tests must also be conducted for each different respirator face piece used and when there are changes in your physical condition that could affect the fit of the respirator. Any respirator that does not fit properly can allow contaminants to slip through the cracks between the face piece and the skin. Because beards, hair, and glasses can interfere with a good face piece seal, precautions must be taken to ensure a good seal. For this reason, facial hair is prohibited in many locations. You must leave the area immediately where the respirator is used if you need to wash your face or face piece or replace the respirator or any respirator part. You must also leave if you detect a gas or vapor breakthrough, changes in breathing resistance, or a leak in the face piece. It is important to remember that when working in an IDLH atmosphere, at least one employee must be located outside the IDLH area. Communication must be maintained at all times between employees inside and outside of the IDLH area. Immediately dangerous to life or health, or IDLH, is any condition that poses an immediate threat to life or would cause irreversible adverse health effects or would interfere with an individual's ability to self-rescue. To ensure your respirator provides effective protection, the OSHA standard requires you to properly maintain and care for your respirator. Refer to the manufacturer's recommendations for the appropriate maintenance and care instructions for your respirator. If you are required to wear a respirator, or choose to wear one voluntarily, you must be trained before its first use. The training must be comprehensive, and repeated annually, or more often if necessary. Respirator training must include limitations and capabilities of the respirator, respirator use during emergencies or when a respirator malfunctions, reasons why respirators are required, how improper fit, usage, and maintenance can adversely affect the respirator, how to inspect, put on and remove, use, and check the seals of the respirator, maintenance and storage procedures, and how to recognize medical symptoms that limit or prevent the use of respirators. This training does not authorize you to use respiratory protection. Your employer must provide more specific training for the respirator you'll be using during your work. Hearing conservation. Noise or unwanted sound is one of the most pervasive occupational health problems, and it is a byproduct of many industrial processes. The effect that noise has on you depends on how long you're exposed to the noise and how loud the sound is. Exposure to high noise levels is one of the leading causes of hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss, or NILH, is a hearing impairment resulting from prolonged exposure to high levels of noise. Noise-induced hearing loss can be immediate or it can take a long time to be noticeable. It can be temporary or permanent and can affect one ear or both ears. Even if you can't tell that you are damaging your hearing, you could have trouble hearing in the future. Symptoms of noise-induced hearing loss include inability to hear high-pitched noise, difficulty detecting lower-pitched sounds, loss of hearing, tinnitus, and split eardrums. The first symptom of noise-induced hearing loss is normally the inability to hear high-pitched noise. The intensity of sound is expressed in decibels, or dB, with 0 decibels indicating the least detectable sound, and 130 decibels indicating the average pain level. For example, a jet engine produces 140 decibels of sound. A lawnmower produces around 90 decibels of sound, while the rustling of a leaf generates approximately 10 decibels of sound. When engaged in normal conversation, we are exposed to roughly 60 decibels of sound. A pneumatic drill generates approximately 130 decibels of sound. When exposed to sound levels between 85 decibels and 120 decibels, we may not experience pain. However, exposure to noises at these levels over a period of time will damage your hearing if you do not wear some type of hearing protection. We don't actually feel pain until the intensity of sound reaches a level around 130 decibels. While you may experience minor symptoms after periods of loud exposure, such as muffled hearing, repeated exposure to loud noise may cause tinnitus or permanent hearing loss. At first, the symptoms are very minor, affecting your ability to hear high-frequency sounds, and most people don't notice them at all. As time progresses, however, the symptoms become more noticeable until eventually you have difficulty hearing everyday sounds, such as a television or a telephone conversation. Action levels are used by OSHA to indicate exposure levels that pose health or physical hazards. OSHA has set the action level for noise exposure at an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels. At that level, your employer must implement a hearing conservation program. In general, if you have to raise your voice to talk to someone 2 or 3 feet away from you, then the sound level in your area is probably greater than 85 decibels. A hearing conservation program covers noise monitoring,
How you doing, Killer?
engineering, work practice,
Oh,
and
you know.
administrative controls,
Half listening.
audiometric testing,
For the
training
deal.
and education, and record keeping. You must wear hearing protectors when you are exposed to an 8-hour TWA noise level of 85 decibels or more. If you have incurred standard threshold shifts that demonstrate you are susceptible to noise, and when directed by your employer. Engineering controls are used to reduce or eliminate noise at the source, to interrupt the noise path, or to reduce the reverberation and structural vibration through the use or substitution of engineered machinery or equipment. Some examples of engineering controls are using carpet, resilient flooring, and sound-dampening walls, enclosing noisy processes in sound-absorbing rooms, replacing noisy metal parts with quieter plastic or rubber components, and eliminating vibration noise by placing heavy equipment on pads. Administrative controls are used to reduce your exposure to noise by changing workplace procedures. Some examples of administrative controls are operating noisy machinery on shifts when fewer employees are present, and rotating employees out of noisy areas for part of a shift. Your employer must monitor noise exposure levels in a way that accurately identifies your exposure to noise at or above 85 decibels, averaged over 8 working hours. You are entitled to observe monitoring procedures and to receive notification of the results of exposure monitoring. The method used to notify you is left to your employer's discretion. Hearing protection is designed to reduce your exposure to occupational noise while at the same time allowing you to hear machine warnings and conversation. According to OSHA, your employer must make hearing protection available at no cost to employees. Employers must replace the hearing protection when necessary. The two categories of hearing protection are earplugs and earmuffs. Earplugs must be positioned in the ear canal to seal it off and protect the ear from noise exposure. Earplugs may be disposable or reusable and are available in pre-molded or custom moldable forms. For hearing protection to be effective, you must follow the manufacturer's recommendation for the proper maintenance and disposal of the hearing protection. For example, reusable earplugs must be washed with soap and water after each use and replaced when they become cracked or are no longer soft and pliable. Earmuffs are cushions and cups attached